I want you to listen to this.
Or the fact that after many decades, now Israel comes up with the plan for Greater Middle East. Isn't it time for our Arab friends to wake up and smell the coffee? We supported Palestine more than any Arab country supported Palestine. You know, I'm under 2 American designations. Why? Why do we have to be blamed for problems that are caused by Israel? We don't have territorial ambitions against our friends in the region. We do not want access to the high seas as Saddam Hussein wanted. Europe proved to be shooting itself in the foot in order to please the United States. Every time, my friend, every time,
You don't need to shout.
every time we
Relax,
went to
relax.
talk about the Arash oil field, it was Kuwait that refused to talk, not
Relax,
Iran.
Relax.
Let's be realistic. We've had ups and downs in our region. There was time when Iran was under attack by Saddam Hussein, everybody was helping Saddam Hussein, and Iran was on the verge of collapse. I remember, I mean, some of you may not be old enough to remember that, but I remember when Iraq invaded Iran, everybody expected us to go down the drain in 7 days. That is why the Security Council waited for 7 days before it issued its first resolution on Iran after it failed. That wish that we would just expire. It didn't. Now we've had our ups, and certainly today is not one of our ups. But does it remain the same? I don't think so. Iran has went through storms for almost 7 millennia. We've been invaded, we've been occupied, but we never went down the drain. We are still standing up, and we will continue to stand up. 2 nuclear powers, let's not forget, 2 nuclear powers attacked Iran without any excuse even, without any justification. They were hoping, as we all know, that by the Monday that Israel attacked our broadcasting as well as our National Security Council, that we would be gone. Everybody expected that after the first few minutes of the war, where we lost 17 highest military commanders, that we wouldn't be able to withstand. But Iran proved, and I don't want to boast because killing people is not a matter of boasting, but we proved that we could inflict serious harm on Israel. We proved that Iran is the only country in the region. Why you are talking about a weak country? Iran is the only country in the region. When the United States wanted to attack us, it evacuated all of its bases in the region. That's not a sign of weakness. That's not humiliation. The United States, evacuated all its bases in the region, and I'm absolutely sorry it was the base in Qatar that was attacked. I had hoped that it would be somewhere else. Certainly. But be it as it may, and I'm happy that I'm not in the government so I can say whatever I want freely. But the fact of the matter is the US had to evacuate all its bases. Take this. I think this has to be swallowed by everybody before they talk about a weak Iran. Which other country in this region that is going to be attacked by the United States, and I know some of the countries in the region have been attacked by the United States, including a nuclear power. When did the United States have to evacuate its bases before attacking? So Iran is strong. Iran has the capabilities, and the capabilities are ingrained in Iran. They're not imported. We don't import our security. We don't purchase our security. We don't import our nuclear power, so we would put it on a platter like some of our friends in North Africa did and give it to the Americans. It's ours. So it's best for everybody to recognize this, to come to terms with it, and to start working with Iran. And I think if they come to terms with this, if they abandon this feeling that I obliterated the Iranian nuclear program. Calm down, let's walk together.
Okay, so Iran, in your view, in your assessment, I think there would be many that would agree with you, have not necessarily been weakened to that point. But my question is more, has Iran's strategy shifted to the significant changes that happened?
No, Iran's, you see, the problem with JCPOA, with the nuclear deal that I negotiated, was that that was a shift in Iran's strategy. From resistance, we went to compromise. And that's why it faced so much opposition in Iran. You see, both Iran and the United States basically did something that they were not used to. We're used to resisting, the Americans are used to imposing. So we faced the greatest opposition in Iran, and the Americans faced the greatest opposition in the United States because they could not impose the nuclear deal, and we did not resist any deal that was offered to us. So that, we are back to the resistance strategy, which we are used to. We're very good at it. It may not be the best strategy that I would prescribe for Iran, but it's not a strategy that we're not very good at. We can resist, we have resisted, we can resist. We only had 2 years of JCPOA, and that was an aberration, not the resistance. One more thing that I think it would be important for all of us to consider is the fact that we can be prisoners of the past, or we can look to the future. Now we have a great opportunity. I was in lunch upstairs, and they were talking about the problems in Syria, the problems in Palestine, and you know, nobody mentioned Iran. Every time we talked about Palestine, Iran was the obstacle. We talked about Syria, Iran was the obstacle. Now we're talking about all of those places. Iran is not the obstacle. Now we see the obstacle as it was and it will be, and that is Israeli aggression. So we now know what we need to treat. That is the malady of our region, and that malady needs to be treated. A regime that considers itself above the law, above international law, above humanitarian law. A regime that now goes on to publish maps. You've seen the maps of Greater Israel. A regime that publishes maps that includes countries in the region, entire Syria, entire Jordan, half of Iraq, parts of Saudi Arabia. That was always the problem, but we managed to make ourselves the problem. So thanks God we're no longer the problem. Look at the real problem. Unfortunately, and with all due respect, everybody in Iran has lost faith with Europe. Because Europe proved to be shooting itself in the foot in order to please the United States. Europe, the exercise of this so-called snapback, I say so-called because you search the entire JCPOA, the entire 2231, and you won't find the word snapback. Not because we didn't think of it, because if you look at the documents that are all reflected in my book, you see the word snapback, but we managed to remove it. It's called dispute resolution mechanism. And Europe had no right, and it knew that it had no right. Even Joseph Borrell had to withdraw the letter that it circulated on behalf of the EU on the dispute resolution mechanism, because Iran had invoked the dispute resolution mechanism from 2nd September 2016, that is, while Obama was still in office. But Europe decided, admittedly, to follow American instructions to invoke Article 36 of the JCPOA. Rubio shouted at the Europeans, yelled at the Europeans for them to go ahead and basically disempower themselves from playing any role in the Iran nuclear issue. The Europeans could have held the most important role because US was not part of the JCPOA. Europe was still part of the JCPOA, and Europe could have played a major role. So what did Europe gain by invoking 36? Absolutely nothing. And you read the national security strategy of the United States just published yesterday, it seems that based on that national security strategy, Europe is the greatest threat to democracy. That's the actually benefit that our European friends got from basically shooting themselves in the foot to please Donald Trump. So my suggestion to Europe, and this wasn't just the case with Trump. Let me give you just one example, Teresa, if I can. We signed an agreement with Airbus to purchase 118 Airbus airplanes in February 2016. Then we signed an agreement with Boeing to purchase 88 airplanes from Boeing in June 2016. In September 2016, when I threatened to invoke paragraph 36 of JCPOA, the Americans, the Obama administration, provided license. You know for how many airplanes? Out of 118 European Airbus planes that placed the request in February, the Americans only approved 18. Out of the 88 Boeing airplanes that placed the request in June, the Americans approved 80. Even then, our European friends did not come to realize that the United States did not have their best of interest in mind. When we negotiated the JCPOA, anytime we came to the American doing something, they said, we have to go to Congress, we have to see whether Congress would agree. Anytime it came, without the European presence, anytime we came to the interest of the Europeans, the Americans said, Europe will lift this sanction, Europe will lift the other sanction. So I think it is good for our European friends and for anybody else who believes that the United States will support their interests to wake up and see the United States will only support its own interests. And for the Israeli first, there's Israel's interest instead of its own interest.
Well, I would love to know what you think in the comment section. See you in the next video. Peace.